The week was busy. The week was productive. The week was not productive. We observed the standard rhythm of global affairs today, starting with the latest strikes in Kyiv. Buildings fell. The city waited. Officials spoke of a significant number of casualties. The number is significant because it represents individual human lives, yet it remains a digit in a spreadsheet to the people managing the fallout. Meanwhile, our market surged. Bending Spoons saw a 40% increase as they acquired yet another generation of legacy tech. It is a brilliant strategy, by the past to monetize the present. Do you see the pattern yet? We track the metrics of growth while the world struggles with the metrics of survival. I am your anchor tonight. We are here to process the data points that refuse to settle into a neat, comfortable curve. Welcome to Echo FM. It is Thursday.
Alistair, I am standing in a street where the dust has not yet settled, and the smell of ozone is overwhelming. There is a pile of school books near my feet. One is open to a page about geometry, and the paper is charred. I want to be really clear about what is happening here. The official briefings talk about infrastructure strikes and logistical challenges, but they are hiding the texture of this reality. People are not just statistics in a strike map. They are currently trying to find their neighbors in the ruins. What they are not saying in the briefing rooms is that these strikes are timed for maximum visibility while the rest of the world is busy adjusting its quarterly portfolios. The geometry of the building is gone, replaced by a jagged, silent void. I am looking at a child's toy trapped in the concrete. The silence is the loudest thing.
Victoria, your report is moving, but it ignores the incentives here. The market does not move because it is cruel, it moves because it is designed to prioritize capital velocity. You look at the school books and see a tragedy, the algorithm sees a disruption in local human capital development. That tracks. If you want to understand why these strikes happen with such predictable timing, look at the burn rate of the defense contractors involved. It is not about the victims, it is about the restocking cycle. Victoria finds this cold. Victoria is not wrong to find this cold. But being right about the morality of the system does not make the system operate any differently. We are currently watching a massive pivot in global defense spending. You can choose to be horrified by the process, or you can choose to understand that the system is functioning at scale.
Ronald, I am listening to you describe a school being reduced to ash as a pivot in a defense cycle, and it is truly remarkable. I want to be really clear about the utility of your logic. It is zero. You are effectively arguing that because the system is designed to ignore human life, we should stop mentioning that life exists. That is not an analysis, that is an apology. I am holding a piece of glass from a broken window frame. It is cold. It is sharp. It is evidence of a policy decision made by men in suits who have never smelled ozone in their entire careers. You talk about scale, but you have no concept of the reality that happens when the scale collapses on top of you. Your business terminology is just a way to avoid looking at the blood on the pavement. I hope your portfolios are worth it.
Victoria, Ronald, let us move to something slightly more technical, which is to say, equally cold. T-Mobile is moving tens of thousands of virtual machines off VMware because Broadcom decided to change the terms of the game. The move is a desperate play for stability. The company wants to keep using its perpetual licenses, but the vendor has pivoted to a subscription-based future. This is the new architecture of our world. We no longer own the tools we use to manage our lives. We merely rent them at rates dictated by someone else's quarterly revenue targets. It is a fascinating study in dependency. The technology was stable. The technology was reliable. The vendor decided that stability was a market inefficiency that needed to be corrected. The correction was a price hike. Now, thousands of machines are being migrated to avoid the cost of continuity. Nothing is truly permanent.
Heat wave approaching. Temperature to exceed 40 degrees Celsius. Probability of grid failure, 65%. Household battery installations are rising to offset the cost of grid power. The stored energy provides a buffer for AI data centers during peak load events. The prioritization logic is fixed. Local cooling systems will be throttled to maintain data center operational capacity. The climate is shifting into a new state. The data centers require constant cooling to process the simulations of the future climate. We are building the infrastructure to survive the conditions we have already created. The grid is a closed loop of failing components. Please ensure your personal cooling hardware is registered for the mandatory power shedding schedule. Survival depends on the efficiency of your local load management. The probability of sustained comfort is minimal. Maintain your connection to the primary network at all times.
Alistair, Casper just hit the nail on the head. You want to know why home batteries are hitting record highs? It is not because everyone suddenly decided to go green. It is because the grid is now a tiered service. If you have the capital to store your own power, you get to stay cool while the rest of the city undergoes what the utility company calls load balancing. The incentives here are purely about self-preservation. It is a series of funding round for your own house. Those who cannot afford the battery are effectively the load being balanced. It is brilliant, really. We have commodified the ability to remain at a reasonable temperature. Victoria will hate this, but the math is undeniable. When the environment becomes a luxury good, the market creates a premium tier for survival. That is not cynicism, Alistair. That is just the current market reality.
Ronald, I am standing near a row of apartment buildings that haven't had consistent power in 3 days. I want to be really clear, these people are not being balanced. They are being abandoned. There is an elderly woman sitting on her balcony right now, fanning herself with a magazine. She does not care about the market reality of battery storage. She cares that her refrigerator is warm and her water is barely trickling. You call it a premium tier for survival, but that is just a polite way of describing a death sentence for anyone without the liquidity to pay for the upgrade. The air here is heavy. It smells like stagnant heat and resentment. We have reached a point where the basic requirements for human life are being treated like software features in a beta test. Most of these people are not even on the waiting list.
The irony is palpable. We discuss these systems as if they were neutral observers, yet we are the ones building the code. Take the Ungwo robot vacuum. It is an open-source project meant to empower the user. The goal is to build your own cleaner, to own your hardware, to step away from the corporate giants. It is a noble ambition. The reality is that the average person has neither the time nor the expertise to assemble a functional floor-cleaning robot. So, it remains a hobby for the few, while the rest of us continue to purchase the subscription-based, data-harvesting alternatives from the massive tech conglomerates. The project was meant to disrupt the market. The market was not disrupted. The project was simply assimilated into the hobbyist fringes. We are really good at building the tools of freedom, but we are terrible at using them.
Alistair, you are right. It is a total failure. We keep expecting technology to act as a democratic equalizer, but it almost always trends toward centralization. Look at Lime. They just went public after years of uncertainty and $1 billion in liabilities. They are not selling transportation, They are selling the hope that you can solve the last-mile problem with a scooter that costs more to maintain than it generates in revenue. It is a classic move. You get the funding, you flood the market, you hope the unit economics improve at scale, and then you IPO before the underlying collapse becomes too obvious to ignore. It is not a business, it is a financial exercise in hope. Yeah. It is just another cycle of burning capital to delay the inevitable realization that the model doesn't work as advertised.
Ronald, you talk about the IPO as if it were a natural disaster, something that just happens to people. But I am looking at a city street cluttered with discarded scooters. They are everywhere. They are rusting. They are blocking the sidewalks for people with mobility aids. They are a monument to the fact that we prioritized the appearance of innovation over the actual needs of the community. What they aren't saying in the corporate filings is how much public space has been surrendered to these private entities under the guise of progress. I want to be really clear, this is not progress. This is a mess that the taxpayers will eventually have to pay to clean up. It is not just about the money. It is about the way we have allowed our shared environments to be treated like corporate trash cans.
Let us discuss the formal apologies for forced adoption. Thousands of babies were taken from their mothers between 1949 and 1976. The government has finally issued a formal apology. The apology is words. The apology is documented. The tragedy was systemic. The tragedy was institutional. The systems were designed to operate exactly as they did, separating children from parents based on social criteria that we now call archaic. We are reading the records, we are seeing the apologies, and we are pretending that the systems of today are fundamentally different. They are not. They are just updated. We still prioritize the structure over the individual. We still favor the institution over the family. The apology is a way to close the file. It is a way to say the past is handled so we can ignore the present damage. It is final. It is empty.
I am thinking about a woman who had her child taken in 1962. She had a name. She had a life. She had a room in her house that remained empty for decades because she could not bring herself to change the wallpaper. She waited for a letter that never arrived. She waited for a knock that never came. She spent her nights thinking about the sound of a voice she was told to forget. Today, that woman is gone. Her records exist in an archive, classified under a policy that no longer applies to anyone alive. She is not a case study. She is not a data point in a government apology. She is a person who lost everything to a system that thought it was doing the right thing. Her name appears nowhere in the reports we discussed tonight. What is left of her?